abroad after 30? Of course you can, and I'm here to give you 15 reasons why. So let's start off. Have you ever wondered what it's like to live abroad? Maybe you did a study abroad program in college, or maybe a trip abroad just piqued your interest in this idea of living somewhere different. Or maybe you read one of those articles about someone who actually did it, who left the US and moved abroad to start a whole new life, and you've been considering it. Well, hey, if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, I'm here to tell you that you're definitely not too old and it's not too late to move abroad. Moving abroad isn't just for those in their 20s. No matter your age, you still have the power to make your dreams come true. And I get it. There's a stigma of moving abroad. A lot of people think that it's for kids in college or who are taking that gap year, or someone who wants to just backpack around the world, and that someone who's thinking about moving abroad just because they want to is a really crazy idea. But it actually isn't. You don't have to be rich, you don't have to get married to a foreigner, and you don't have to get transferred with your company to move abroad. You can move to another country just because you want to. And I'm going to tell you 15 reasons why you should actually consider that. I mean, I did it myself. I am Seppi, rhymes with Peppy, and I'm an American living in Spain. I moved to Spain in 2015 at 35 years old just because I wanted to, and 6 years later, I am still here living my best life. And while there are people out there who are going to think you're crazy for even thinking about moving abroad, just remember that there are hundreds of thousands of people who have done it, and there are thousands of people who are moving abroad every day, people just like you. All right, are you ready? Here are 15 reasons why you should be moving abroad because you're over 30. So the first one is that you don't have to be rich. A lot of people have the misconception that you got to have a lot of money because they think that moving abroad is an expensive endeavor. And you know what? It doesn't have to be. With any move, you're going to have to calculate your expenses. There's going to be expenses, your living expenses. You have to think about where you're going to live, how much an apartment or house is going to be, your transportation expenses, entertainment, groceries, etc. That's going to be the same when you're moving abroad. Some of the other extra costs that you should think about are obviously, the plane ticket over, but also before that, your visa application, health insurance that you're going to need, and also any moving expenses. If you're moving things with you and you're going to need a moving company to do that, think about those expenses. But just because you have those expenses doesn't mean that it has to be expensive. So reason number 2 why you should move abroad is that you don't have to live outside of a backpack. So while, if you traveled when you were younger, you maybe had to pinch pennies and travel on a budget. That's not necessarily true if you're over 30 now. You now have a better sense of what works for you, and you probably don't have to live on as tight of a budget anymore, which gives you the option of maybe staying in a boutique hotel, or if you're moving abroad, you can rent a house or an apartment. And if you're on the go, you can house it, you can stay in an Airbnb. There are many things that you can do now that maybe you couldn't do before when you had to live on a tighter budget. The third reason why you should move abroad is because you can reinvent yourself. And this is one of my favorite reasons, because this is what I feel like I did myself when I moved abroad at 35 years old. While reinvention means different things to different people, one thing that you'll have when you move abroad is the time and space and the opportunities to really dabble in your interests and just see what you're into and give yourself that space to be curious and scratch those itches that you may not have had time for back in the US. And that'll give you the opportunity to really figure out once you move abroad who you want to become or who you're meant to be. And I have a whole talk on this and how moving abroad can be that catalyst to uncovering who you are. So check it out below, check out the link below, and tune into that for some inspiration. So the fourth reason why you should move abroad is that technology is now at our fingertips. So if you're in your 30s, you maybe were using probably your cell phone when you were traveling abroad, but if you're in your 40s, 50s, and beyond, if you traveled when you were younger, technology just wasn't something that we were using on a daily basis when we were traveling. So now when you move abroad, you have technology at your fingertips. You can use Google Maps to navigate your way around. You can use the internet to find communities abroad, to even do research about where you want to live, where you want to stay, and what resources you can use in those places. But also on top of that, technology gives you the opportunity to stay connected with those people that you love back home. Your friends and family are just a little video chat away, and that makes it so much easier to not feel isolated or alone when you move abroad. All right, so the fifth reason why you should move abroad is that you can afford more luxuries. So hopefully you're not pinching your pennies or not counting your pennies in the same way as you were when you were younger. And so moving abroad, now that you're older, means that you can afford more luxuries since you have more resources to really spend on the things that you love and splurge on a nice meal or to take that trip, that weekend trip, city break somewhere in a way that maybe you couldn't before. Also, having that extra money allows you to live a lifestyle that is more in tune with how you want to live. So maybe you can rent that furnished apartment instead of having to share with 5 or 6 other people. And yes, furnished apartments are a thing abroad. They're quite popular. And renting that furnished apartment abroad is probably going to cost you a lot less than renting a place in any major city in the US. All right, the next reason why you should move abroad is that you get to push your boundaries. So if you're apprehensive about moving overseas, just embrace that fear. Feel the fear and do it anyways. When you do this, you're going to learn so much more about yourself and just realize how strong and resilient you really are. And you're going to change in ways that you can't even fathom right now. And you're going to have experiences that are going to totally blow your mind. So don't you want to see who you're going to become? Well, if you move abroad, you're going to give yourself that opportunity to have that journey and see who your future self is going to be. It's going to be very different than the person that you are right now. I can tell you that. All right, reason number 7 is that your dollar will go so much further. A lot of American expats express that one of the major reasons why they move abroad is because the cost of living in the US is getting out of control. And knowing that your dollar can go a lot further abroad makes it a really enticing endeavor. So that's a big perk. Moving abroad after 30, not only hopefully you're making a lot more money now than you were in your 20s, but if you move abroad, you can just afford more luxuries without having to kill yourself working to keep up with the Joneses. And also, not only will you have more to spend, but you also have more to save for that retirement as well, especially if you're thinking of moving abroad and living there long term. All right, so the next reason is also one of my favorites. There's just more remote opportunities. So due to the pandemic, the work world has really changed and we have really gone remote now. So nowadays it's so much easier to work remotely and to take your work with you abroad, which is a huge perk. And if you can't take your current job with you, there are so many online jobs available for those who have in-demand skills. And if you're interested to know what the top in-demand online jobs are, check below. I got a link for you with about, I think, 11 in-demand jobs that are not teaching English. Speaking of jobs, as someone who is planning to live overseas, you have the added benefit of having more professional experience now than you did when you were younger. So if you have extensive experience, let's say in tech, in the science industries, in healthcare, those are some of the top fields that are in demand abroad. If you're looking to find a job when you go overseas in countries like Ireland, the Netherlands, just to name a few, I will stress that finding a job abroad is very, very difficult. It's really hard to get a work visa abroad. That's going to be your biggest obstacle. But don't let it deter you. If you're interested in moving abroad, just see what skills you have and do some research into how difficult it is to get a job in the country that you're looking to move to. And if you're interested in moving to Europe, I actually wrote a book called I'm Outta Here, an American's ultimate visa guide to living in Europe. And I cover the 17 easiest countries to move to. I do cover work visas in there, but I cover a whole array of different types of visas that'll help you move to Europe, viable visa options, and there's over 50 of them. So please check that out. Link below. You'll find that there. I'm Outta Here is the digital book. All right. So the next reason number 10, why you should move abroad is that you need to say goodbye to the shoulda, coulda, woulda. By the time you've reached a certain age, you've had a lot of life experiences. You've probably had job losses. You've probably had maybe health issues that you've dealt with, maybe even dealt with losing loved ones and other unforeseeable challenges. And so, the gift of moving abroad after 30 is that you've already done hard things. And so you know that you can do this, that you can overcome challenges and discomfort, and also that you don't want to live with any regrets. You only get this one life. So why not move abroad now if it's something that you've been thinking about? And going along with that, reason number 11 is that you just have a better sense of who you are. Yeah, along with realizing that your time is now, more life experiences tends to provide clarity about your goals, how you want to live life, and what you want for yourself. And that means that it's just going to be easier for you to focus on what you want, on moving abroad and in this adventure that you're going to have overseas. Reason number 12 is that you are free to be you. So whether you are married, single, with kids, no kids, divorced, widowed, it doesn't matter. Moving abroad after 30 is just a fantastic reminder that you get to live life on your own terms and live life in a way that works for you, especially if you are living an unconventional path. I know there's a lot of pressure from society that there's one way, there's one path that defines what success is, and maybe that's not what your life looks like, and that is okay. When you move abroad, you're going to find a whole network, communities of people who look and live just like you, and you won't feel so alone if you're living outside of the conventional box. You're going to meet so many people who have paved their own path, and so this is your opportunity when you move abroad to pave the path that works for you. So don't be afraid, because there's no one way to live a life. Be true to how you want to live. All right, reason number 13 is that you're going to have more travel opportunities. One of the joys about living outside of the US, whether that's in Europe, Asia, or Latin America, is that there's so many countries nearby that you can travel to and just experience different things much quicker and a lot cheaper than if you have to fly from the US. Some countries are even close enough abroad that you can travel by train or just drive across the border and be in a whole new country with a new language and different customs and culture. So you can say goodbye to cramming, to touring the world in 2 weeks, and really just take your time. You can take a long weekend and go to a new country, or even if you're working remotely, take that job with you and travel while you work. And reason number 14 is that you're gonna build confidence. Moving abroad is the biggest confidence builder because you're diving into a new experience. Regardless of your age, it's just a fantastic way to learn more about yourself, to stay true to your gut instead of falling in line with how life is supposed to be, and watching your confidence soar because you did it all on your own and you were responsible for this big change in your life and you overcame all of those challenges. It is so empowering to move abroad, and I can tell you now, even though you might be scared and you may not know exactly how to do it, you are totally capable of moving abroad, and I have a ton of resources to help you with that. But just know that you can overcome any obstacle that you're going to face moving abroad. And then once you do it, you can pat yourself on the back and celebrate that you have created the life that you've always wanted to live. All right, and coming up now to the last reason number 15, why you should move abroad. And that is, if not now, when? If 2020, 2021, and this year, 2022, have taught us anything, it is that our time here is so precious. So don't waste it on things that don't matter. Maybe you've been sitting on this dream of moving abroad for a long time. Like I said, maybe you studied abroad and have always wanted to return. Maybe a trip abroad, piqued that interest to move abroad and try out different lifestyles. Or maybe you just recently discovered how doable it is and you were searching on here on YouTube, moving abroad over 30, wanted to know if it's doable and possible, and it is. And this is what I always tell people, just do it. What do you have to lose? Really, you have a lot less than you think. If you've ever worried about, giving up your comfortable lifestyle in the US, I can tell you that it's gonna be there if you ever wanna go back after you moved abroad. Your houses, cars, jobs, all that is replaceable. What's not replaceable is the time that you spend, the years that you've probably spent wondering instead of actually doing, wondering what it would be like to move abroad instead of actually trying it out. So take that leap and make your dream come true. And if you're over 30, it is totally possible to make this move abroad happen. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like, click the subscribe button, and be sure to check out all the resources here down below to help you move abroad at any age.